in a coffee shop not far from here, I was interviewed about my environmental work in journalism by a student from the College of Sustainability of Dalhousie University. And she said, "How do you keep from despair? How do you keep from despair? You're dealing with these issues like climate change, ocean acidification, biodiversity. How do you keep from despair? And what can one person do?" And I said, well, I have two methods of keeping from despair. And the first is the recognition that I'm a lousy prophet. I did not believe I would live to see a bridge to Prince Edward Island, or a tunnel between France and England, or a black man in the White House. So, in the words of the legendary Irishman, I think things will work out very differently from the way I think things will work out. The second way I keep from despair is by paying attention to the people that I work with all the time in my work as an environmental journalist. In 2010, my friend Chris Beckett and I established a subscription website called thegreeninterview.com. And on that site, we publish, in video, audio, and text, interviews, long interviews, with leading environmental figures from around the world. We speak not only to politicians and scientists and people like that, but also to cruising sailors and artists and musicians, anyone who has something to say about how we get to a sustainable future. Some of these people are famous: Vandana Shiva, David Suzuki, Paul Watson, Elizabeth May, and George Monbiot. But some of them are not famous. Betty Krawczyk is an 85-year-old great-grandmother who has spent 2 years in the slammer for defending the rainforest of British Columbia. Edmund Metatawabin is a Cree leader from James Bay who remembers what it was like to live in a way of life that had been sustainable for 11,000 years. Mark Boyle is known as the moneyless man. He's a young Irishman who has lived entirely without money for the last 5 years and is spreading the gospel of moneyless living around the world. And Santiago Valera is an Aboriginal leader from Peru who took 8 bullets to his stomach for defending the ancestral lands of his people. These people fill me with joy and hope and courage. What can one person do? What can one person do? This is Hugo Spowers, a racing car driver from Ludlow, England, who realized that the automobile is one of our major problems environmentally, and so he determined that he would reimagine not only the automobile, but the automobile industry. The cars he builds are made of carbon fiber. They're powered by electricity derived from a hydrogen fuel cell. They have no noxious emissions at all, and they get the equivalent of more than 300 miles to the gallon. Hugo won't sell you the car, he only leases it. And when you're done, you hand it back to him, and he takes the body and melts it down, he takes the components and rebuilds them, and he builds another car. He wants to decentralize the automobile industry, so he publishes his plans on the internet and encourages people to take them and build elsewhere. If you want to build a Riversimple car in Halifax or Hong Kong or Buenos Aires, Hugo is all for it. That's what one person can do. What can one person do? This is Orri Vigfusson, who was raised in a fishing village in Iceland that was shattered by the collapse of the herring stocks. Orri grew up to be a very successful businessman and an ardent salmon fisherman. And when he learned that the salmon fishery was in similar difficulties, he decided that the way to solve the problem was for him to raise the money and go and buy every single commercial salmon fishing license in the North Atlantic, from Connecticut to Labrador, from Spain to Russia. And when he comes to people to ask to buy their licenses, this is what he says.
About 5,200 fishermen all over the North Atlantic now have signed up, and this represents about 85% of all the fish that used to be caught. And I think you will find them, virtually every single one of them is now happy they have a better income, they have a better lifestyle, and it works.
Have you got that? 85% of the wild Atlantic salmon in the entire North Atlantic basin can now get back to their native rivers. That's what one person can do. What can one person do? This is Mumta Ito, who was a high-powered corporate lawyer in the city of London until she experienced a sudden spiritual awakening. She's now the founder and director of the International Centre for Holistic Law based in Scotland, and her current project is to accumulate 1 million signatures on a petition to the European Parliament to implement environmental rights in the legal system of the European Parliament. 1 million signatures from 27 countries. And if she does that, the European government has to consider passing those measures into law. Incidentally, most countries in the world already have those rights embedded somewhere in their legal system. Your right to a healthy environment, Mother Nature's right to be respected and protected, but not in Canada. This is a stream high in the Amazon, but this is a stream with a dream. This is a stream that dreams of joining forces with thousands of other little streams in the mountain range like it, and forming the mightiest river in the world. These are the headwaters of the Amazon. You and I are the headwaters of the mightiest social movement in the history of the world. The environmental movement consists of more than 2 million organizations. That's organizations, not individuals, all around the world, all working on environmental issues. What can one person do? What can one person do? In small ways or large ones, in the short term or the long term, one person can shape the world. One person can change the future. Walalan, merci, thank you.